Yep. Check 1, 2. All right.
We live.
Yo.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, now, say now. What's going on, everybody?
Welcome to the Miller Time Podcast.
Miller Time Podcast.
People of color redefining success.
Redefining success. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday.
Monday.
It's Miller Monday once again, and we're so glad to be back, y'all. It's 2020. Y'all got that 2020 vision? Because I got it.
I don't think you really do have 2020 vision.
Yeah, I know. But I got it in my heart, though.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, welcome back, y'all. Welcome to the Miller Time Podcast. I am Patrick Miller.
And I'm Coco Miller.
And we are...
The Millers.
We're happy and we're singing and we're colored.
Give me a high five. Woo! Okay, y'all.
We feeling good, y'all.
It's a good day.
It's a real good day.
We are bringing on some guests that are killing the game in being an entrepreneur, not just in business, but in every area of their life. Mm-hmm. And so today we have a very, very special guest, someone who is actually very special to Coco Plan My Life as well, because he is our board of advisor. And I am happy, I am pleased, and I am very honored to be able to introduce our guest, Eugene Johnson, who is the CEO of Zyrl. Eugene, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
What's up, everybody? My name is Eugene Johnson. I'm born and raised in New York, and I live out here in San Fran now.
Yeah.
So when'd you come up? Because I still hear your accent. So when'd you come over?
That New York accent.
Yeah. It's hard to get away from it, especially when start saying water and stuff like that.
Water.
Yeah.
Yeah. When'd you come over? How did you end up over here?
Yeah. So, funny story. I wasn't supposed to stay out here long term. So my first business, I moved out here. It was growing out here, and I kind of wanted to take advantage of what was happening. And I moved out here in 2006, like the end of 2006. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to be out here for a year, grow the business, go back. Mm-hmm. Well, in 2007, New York got hit with a huge snowstorm, and I was supposed to go back in like December 2007, and I was like, oh man, I'm out here with a t-shirt and shorts on, and they shoveling snow. I'm like, I'm gonna go 3 months. I'll stay out here 3 more months, and I'll go back. Yeah, that was 12 years ago.
Wow.
You never went back?
Not to live, no.
Is your family over there?
Yeah, all my family is in the East Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, West New York and DC, Virginia.
Wow.
That's a huge change.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge.
So you said you came out here to work on your business. What business was this?
So the first business, I was in a direct sales company where we sold legal services, identity theft protection, things of that nature. So mostly, I didn't build the product. It was mostly us taking that product, pitching that product to other people and building a sales organization, a marketing organization on the back half of that. So grew that to a good amount of people, and had some fun there. Ended up selling my portion of that company maybe like 8 or 9 years later. And then kind of went and chilled after that and looked for something else. Yeah, I was in there for a minute. Yeah.
Wow.
You said you started when you were 19?
18.
18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's interesting because I'm thinking about like the 18-year-olds that live today. Maybe there's a different kind of mindset that we are all in as millennials. Are you still a millennial?
I'm still a millennial.
Oh, okay. Did you barely make the cutoff?
I'm a few years below the cutoff. I am like an elder millennial, but I'm still there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm still in there.
Did you grow up in a family of entrepreneurs?
My dad was known to be an entrepreneur, so I didn't have an incredible relationship with my pops. He was kind of in and out of my life, but a lot of people say he was like, he was probably like the get rich quick type of guy. Like, I'm gonna do something here, I'm trying to make a bunch of money, and he was like kind of doing a bunch of different things. So a lot of people say that he was like an entrepreneur. I never really saw it, but I know, my mom says that he was, and things of that nature. My mom's like not an entrepreneur at all. She's awesome, she's amazing, she's like super smart. She's the reason why I'm where I'm at today. But yeah, the reality is, a lot of people, when they hear that I got started in business at 18, they think that like I was like some whiz kid type of situation. Yeah. Now, I've always been an entrepreneur. Like, I used to, but I'm from the hood. So I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn, Jamaica, Queens. So my entrepreneurism, some of it legal, some of it not so legal. And I was like a young kid. I was like buying. So I had this like little scheme that I used to run. So Pokemon cards, like, it was big at that time when I was in when I was in middle school. Like, so they used to have on the backpacks of the Pokemon cards, they would have acetone. It would say acetone. Now, if it said acetone, and there were packs that said it and didn't say it. If it said acetone, that means that they had the holographic cards inside of them. So those holographic cards used to sell for like $40, $50, $60.
Yo, wow. I didn't even peep that.
So I used to go into the stores and just look for acetone, No, I would just go from store to store.
How did you figure that out?
I don't know, man. I don't know what I was doing at that time. I probably was maybe like 11 or 12 or something like that. And I was just, I don't know how it came to me, but I was just like, why does this one say acetone? And I was looking at it. I don't know how it came to me, honestly.
No way.
And so I started selling Pokemon cards. But like I said, I was hood. So I would sell Pokemon cards, and back in the days they had these JanSport book bags. So I would sell Pokemon cards to a lot of people that was like Asian and stuff like that. They used to love those things. And so there were hard cards to get, like Blastoise and Charizards and stuff like that. The unseen holographic ones were super hard to get. So I would sell it to them for like $100, and then they would put it in their backpack in the little zipper part. And this is not good, but I used to steal them back and sell them to other people. Like, we used to have this thing where they would be like, if you in the JanSports, they had these like little lanyard strings. I can't remember what they were called. That tied to the little zipper part. So if you stood behind somebody and you held that, you could zip it slowly out and then take it back. So it was bad. I was a bad kid. So when people say like, oh, 18, my life changed at 18. It started there, so it didn't really. I was like a negative entrepreneur.
Got you.
And then at 18, it was like that was like the beginning of the change.
I want to start helping people.
Yeah, it was.
I want to protect people from people like me.
It's a little bit of that.
Wow, that's amazing.
But that's still interesting because it's like, you had a hustle, like as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that often when we like think about like kids in the hood and like the struggle and it's a complete power struggle that's going on in inequity system. And so you were doing the best entrepreneurship with the resources that you had available. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reality. Yeah, that's basically what I did. Yeah. And
so being able to, at 18, like, what caused the switch?
So I wasn't looking for a switch. Honestly, I was about to go down a deeper and darker path at that moment in time. So like 12 is really when things started to shift and change in my life, where I started doing music at that time, and being a rapper. And like being hood, and you get into fights, you beat people up, stuff like that, and you get into gang stuff and things of that nature. But like when you listen to rap at that time, you were like, man, I'm bad, but I ain't doing that. And so you start to get worse to
catch up.
To catch up, to really kind of like justify the music that you're creating. And so at 12, I started doing a lot of things, but I was like I really respected my mom, and I really love my mom because like she took a lot of abusive relationships in her life, and so I never wanted to be another man that made her cry. And so for me, I always wanted to do right. The one thing she always wanted me to do is like go to school and do good. And I was always pretty smart without having to do a lot of studying. So for me, I would just go to school and like play it off, like make sure all of the teachers there like said, oh my goodness, this guy is great. But then all my friends are like, yo, this guy's just lying to y'all. Look at how he is outside of school. So I lived like this little double life. And from 12 to 18, I was really like, I was doing a lot of hustling. I was selling drugs. I was doing a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have been. And the reality was when I got to 18, I ended up going to City College, and I was playing and involved with the basketball team over at the school. And there's this guy named Mike Lubier. So he never used to talk to anybody. And so at the end of practices, Mike would be on one side of the court, I'd be on the other. And we'd be just shooting, closing out practice. We always was the last two to leave. And if I left first or he left first, I would be like, yo, Mad Mike. And he'd be like, Eugene the Dream. And that literally, those are only words we said to each other for like a year, maybe 2. And then so how I got into that first business, one of our other players that played on the team, Nick Rollins, him and this guy named Jonathan we were riding the train back to Queens from the city, and they were like, yo, you want to make more money? And I'm like, yeah, what you got? And then they were like, oh, nah, we can't tell you. We can't tell you. That's probably, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but what's up?
Right.
And always trying to get the bag. And so he was like, yo, like we got this business thing that I want to get you involved with. I'm like, yeah, but what is it? He's like, nah, we can't tell you. We're going to call you. And I'm like, all right, but what is it? Like, I was getting upset. And so the dude said, all right, we're going to call you on Saturday. It was like Friday night. Saturday comes and goes. I don't get a call. So I text Jonathan. I'm like, yo, where's this money call at? Right. And he's like, oh, man, I forgot to call you. My bad. I'll call you tomorrow. He ain't called. So I saw him on Monday. I'm like, yo, what's up with this money thing, bro? And he's like, I promise you I'll call you today. So he finally called me that day, and he was like, all right, I'm going to introduce you to a guy by the name of Mr. Lubier. And I'm like, all right, cool. This sounds like some rich dude. Yeah, let's go. Lubier. And so he introduced me to this guy, and it was Mike. That was Mr. Lubier. I ain't know at the time. So Mad Mike. And so I'm talking to this dude, and he's like sounding super professional, and he's like, yeah, we got this business opportunity. You come down to the hotel, was the Hotel Pennsylvania across the street from Madison Square Garden. And he was like, come down to this hotel Thursday night. And I come in on Thursday night at 7 p.m. and he's like dressed professional. I'm not professional. So my stepfather, he's 5'6", maybe 5'7", and I'm 6'2". So I'm like, yo, let me borrow your shirt. But he's bigger, so I'm like, yo, let me borrow your shirt. So I borrow his shirt, but his shirt doesn't fit, so it stops like right here.
But it's also wide.
It's also wide. So I get one of my Mike used to call it bomber jackets. So I get a bomber jacket. I throw it on. It's like those little flight jackets, the old school flight jackets. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, you could take your jacket off. It's kind of hot here. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Trying to be cool, but the reality is, it's a big cutoff here. Right. So I ended up going into this meeting, and it was just a bunch of smiling people in New York. I thought it was weird.
Wow.
Like, you live in New York, people don't smile. And you got a bunch of people smiling and all happy. I'm like, yo, what is this? This is kind of like, I ain't never seen nothing like this. And it was like people of color. And I was just like, this was like foreign to me. Everybody in suits, like decked out. And I remember this guy who was, his name is Obina Indu. Funny thing is, he's actually an investor in Zyrl now. Oh, wow. But he was the speaker that night. And he went on stage, and I was just like mesmerized. This dude was just like his just flow was just impeccable.
Wow.
And he just looked sharp. I'm like, yo, this dude's black, and he's like making money legally. How you doing this? And so I ended up signing up to be involved in that company. You had to buy in and all this other stuff. But like the reality is, I probably wouldn't have made it in that business if I didn't go to Oklahoma. So they had this convention in Oklahoma, and they convinced me to go. Like, I wasn't trying to go. I didn't have the money for it. I was like, nah, I ain't trying to spend no money to go to Oklahoma. Ain't nothing out there. And I never left New York at that time in my life. So I'm just like, I'm not going. And then they were really pressing me. It was like a week after I signed up. So I'm like, I signed up a week ago.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm still got big braids, big earrings, Jordan jerseys. Like, I can't go to no Oklahoma, business conference. But Mike decided he would give up his plane ticket and we drive there. And so I was like, all right, I'll go. And come to find out, I didn't know it was like 24-hour drive. And so he was like, yo, go in the glove compartment, grab the map. So I'm grabbing the map. I'm like, yo, Mike, this ain't 24 hours. This is the wrong map, bro.
I ain't never knew how far Oklahoma was.
Dude, I was literally about to get out of the car. Like, I was like this close from getting out of the car. I didn't get out of the car. It was the best decision I ever made in my life because of the fact that, like, one, at that conference, I found Christ. That was how I got saved at that conference.
Really? So was it a Christian conference?
No, it was a business conference, but they had on Sundays, they had like a bunch of people get together and basically just like have like a worship service. So Mike was like, yo, come to the church thing. And we had been eating peanut butter sandwiches the whole time because we were broke. Right. And he's like, yo, I'll buy you breakfast. Wow. And I was like, wow, man, I don't do church, but dude, I'm going for some free food. I'm there.
You weren't raised in the church.
Nah, I ain't never even stepped foot in the church before that time. I know my mom, she did. I probably did when I was younger, but not from my, knowledge. I know my mom was a Jehovah's Witness at one point in time.
Gotcha.
But for me, I always thought pastors were crooks. Like, I'm just like, I don't understand how you gonna preach about hell and then go downstairs and eat chicken. Like, I don't like it just didn't feel real to me. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys know who Ed Paz is. Okay, he has a church out here in Oakland called The Movement. Oh. And so Ed Paz was the guy who preached that Sunday.
Wow.
And so he preached, and this is a young Ed Paz. He literally cried from the start of the sermon to the end. And like, there was the first time I actually believed this guy was telling the truth. Sheesh. This is real. Like, this is gonna make a grown man cry the entire time. Yeah. And I just remember being like bawling that day. And I ended up, so I did music at the time. And that whole process, I was in the process of getting a record deal, all this other stuff. And I remember walking out of that service in a hotel lobby, and I'm just like, yo, called my partner. We were like kind of like the Eclipse type of a duo. Called my partner, was like, yo, I can't do music with you anymore.
Wow.
Oh, man.
And he's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about, bro? We about to get a deal? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And I was just like, nah, I'm out. And he just didn't understand. I didn't understand, to be honest. Like, this is my first time actually hearing the gospel. Like, I never heard the gospel before. But like, I felt like I walked out of there, I felt super different.
And I'm sure that for your partner, like, if you guys are about to get a deal together, it probably cut him out.
I mean, I think he still got some ill will towards me because of that now. Yeah. So
is he still in music?
I don't think so. Nah.
Okay.
You changed the direction of his life.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's tough, but the scenario, I think that you asked a question about like what made the shift at 18. It was really it was that, I think that locked me into shifting my life and kind of going in a different direction. And I think that that was from a spiritual perspective, but from a motivational perspective, it was a guy by the name of Darnell Self who walked on stage, and this guy was like 35, maybe 34. And he was making like $500,000 a year at that time. I thought that was like all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I remember him saying something about the Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad and how that relates to success. And I was just like, yo, dude, this guy's like me. He came from where I came from. And when I was younger, when I was like 11 or 12, or maybe even a little younger than that, I brought a knife to school, and my mom got called into school, and the principal told my mom, yo, your son is going to be dead and in jail before 21. Wow. And a lot of people say like, oh man, how dare the principal say that? And that's not the worst part that she said, is that I actually believed it. Like I was like living my life like that was going to be reality, because that's what I was seeing.
So you believe the
I believe, like I was like, yeah, she probably right. What you getting mad about?
Wow.
And but the reality is, when Darnell Self spoke, that was like literally, I was 18 at the time. That was the first time I said, man, I could see myself living past 21 if I go down this path. And I think that those are the things that really shifted me and made me make a change.
That's to me, like, just to have that perspective, like, that it wasn't, oh, I could see myself being successful. It wasn't, I could see myself having like a fat house. It was like, I can live past 21. Like the fact that was like even just the beginning for you. Like it was what initiated the thought. It reminded me, I told Courtney this. I was like walking down the street in San Francisco. I had just came out my job, and I like walked out. And this is a girl walking down the street, and she's yelling at the top of her lungs. She's on the phone, and she's like talking to somebody. She is like, "Man, you ain't got no felonies. You ain't been to jail. Ain't nothing. You got potential. You got hella potential." And I was like, in my mind, I was like looking. I was like, "Yo, is that the standard for potential?"
That's the standard, I guess.
That's
no
hilarious.
felonies. You got potential.
Oh man.
I was like, yo, this is crazy.
That's
but like, if that's what it's gonna take to get you to change, like sometimes maybe you just gotta see the next step.
Yep.
Like the next step to get you to change. Then
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
So so 18, and then a couple years into it, or you said about 8 years in, you stayed with the company?
Well, so I moved out here a year after I started the company.
Oh, okay.
So like at that point I was trying to be serious.
Okay.
But I was like, though I had gotten saved, I hadn't fully changed my life.
Okay.
Because like it was hard. It was hard, right? Like I still had people come to me like, "Yo, Eugene, I need work and all this other stuff," and I'm like, I'm trying to not be broke. I still got stuff, so I'm like, all right, here, you take this. I'm still getting into issues. I still got beef with people. I'm trying to get in a suit and go to a business meeting. I'm getting on a bus getting shot at. Like, so these things make you say like, I need to find a stronger way to get myself out of this situation. And I think for me, it was like, man, if I could just go get a break. And so I was like, man, all right, let me go to Cali. I got stuff going on out there. Let me go to Cali for a year. I come back. The heat will die down. I don't have to deal with that. People will have forgotten about me for a little bit. And then I can kind of try to start changing my life and going in a different direction. But coming out here, it was hard for me to go back because I was like, I didn't have all the distractions. Nobody was trying to get me to a party. Nobody was calling my cell. You know, it was just literally me, a bunch of personal development books in the Bible. Wow. That's all I did for an entire year. So I either was working or I was reading. And so, you know, and one of my mentors always said, when your mind is like underwear, once it expands, it'll never go back to its old its old form.
That's a good one.
Your mind is like underwear.
So it was hard for me. Like, as I was thinking about going back, I kept thinking, like, what am I going back to? Like, you know, is there really anything for me there? I mean, I was in college at the time. You know, barely got into that, the City College in New York, but still, I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna go back. And that was kind of like, I think that me coming out here, I think did two things. One, I think it saved my life because it's hard to be a different person when you've gone down a negative path for so long, because then people think you get soft, you become easy target, all these other, you become an easy mark, right? At that point in time, it's like Eugene talking about church now, like what's like,
is he wearing a suit?
It's just a tough situation. So I think it saved my life. I think it shifted me from business perspective.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, just like even as you're talking, I'm just hearing like how you started off kind of in this space where it took someone that you probably wouldn't have connected with outside of basketball. Like probably if you didn't play on a team with them, you wouldn't have even had a conversation with them. And so like it took that one moment in time to be able to grab hold of that and build like this relationship that kind of changed, like opened up your mind to be able to see like here's a different trajectory that you can move in. But also being in this space, you recognize that just because you made that shift, it wasn't enough. Like you had to continue to shift. And so you were like, okay, well, even though I made the shift and maybe like I'm starting to think about like maybe legal business opportunities, and now I'm even thinking about changing my life at a spiritual aspect, but also now like physically, I need to move myself physically from my location. I mean, I think it speaks to me because I think about like my brother, like I'm trying to get him in a space where he's thinking about like his next opportunities and what is he gonna do. But even for him, I can't drive him down the street and be like, oh, there goes so and so. Like, you can't. I can't even drive you down the street without you seeing somebody you got beef with. Like that's like how can you expect to even change in this space? Hard, like you got to get out of here because that's the only way that you're gonna be different. When he's around his family or he's around us, like we're having conversations, it's like his mind is opening, he's seeing possibilities. And then like if I haven't seen him in a while and I go have a conversation with him, like who is this cat? Like who am I talking to anymore? It's like then it's like he gets back to that narrow perspective where it's like, oh, let me take some stuff out some stores and go sell it to people. And like,
that world is addictive. Like a lot of people don't realize how addictive that world is and why. When people talk about disenfranchisement and people of color and people being in environments, like when an environment is shaped in a specific way, it's why when you go to war and you come back, you have this post-traumatic stress, right? Sure. Yeah. Like a lot of people don't realize that world is like living in that life is addictive to stay into. And I think that, you know, my big thing is always about environment. Like you change the environment, you change the person. And so it's not. I understand why when going back, it's easy to slide back in. You know, because people want security. People, what's more secure than putting a gun to somebody's head? You know, you have the power in that situation, right? So I think that like a lot of people just don't know how to relinquish. This is the only place that they feel empowered. And so why walk away from that to go step into a place that you feel like you always going to be second class citizen?
And maybe I'm the bottom of the rung here. There's a bunch of cats who've been in here for years. Their parents been in it, and so how can I step in and expect to compete with them?
I mean,
that's really good.
I think this is just so powerful because this first time I'm hearing some of these stories, and so I'm like, what? Eugene did what? Like, it gives so much perspective and so much depth to understand, like, and even see where you are today. Like success doesn't happen overnight. Like, you're getting into some real, like, I mean, I appreciate your vulnerability and telling, like, no, like, I actually was the negative entrepreneur and I was in this other path, and it was like this one moment that could have been like, you could have walked away, like you could have got out that car, you could have went back to where you were, but it was like in that moment of staying and trusting the process that now you own your own company in San Francisco. And so I'm really curious about like with like, well, one, I want our listeners to know like what is the work that you do, and then how does that relate with where you came from, like with understanding who Eugene Johnson is as a CEO of Zyrl. And understanding the path that took you to get to this moment. Like, what does that mean for you being a Black entrepreneur in tech? I don't know how many there is.
A tall Black entrepreneur in tech.
Please. I want to know.
And I want to even kind of look at that, like, Eugene stealing Pokemon cards after he just sold them to you. To, like, being the CEO of Zyrl and just hitting the 1 million mark. Like,
please tell us.
So I think that it's interesting to kind of like look at the discrepancy, and everything that I did at that time really kind of prepared me for everything I am today, because it was a lot of what I was good at. Like, I never was the violent one in the group. I was the one that like you didn't want to disrespect, but I was always the leader. Like, I was always like, hey, this is what we should do. This is where we should go. And I think that understanding the streets helps you understand people, because you in order to be successful in the streets, you got to know how to read people. Is this person going to attack? Or are they trying to talk? Are they trying to sell? Are they trying to make money? Are they serious about their game? Should you push them to the side? Like, you got
social intelligence.
It gives you an incredible amount of social intelligence. How do I game the system where my parents think I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread?
Wow.
Every neighbor in the teachers do, but every one of my peers is like the most evil person in the world. Like, how do you like play those games and those strings? And I think that it allowed for me to understand how to communicate and impact people. And I think that that's really what set me off from a business perspective. So when I started Zyrl, like, first off, I had business experience by the time I started Zyrl, or even before that. And I was going to go into straight tech entrepreneurship, straight out of, my last thing that I did, which was I was doing brand building. I wrote a book. I ended up growing a whole bunch of social media followers and stuff like that. And I did that for a little bit. And I was just looking for the next thing. And I was going to say, all right, well, let me start a tech company, because I wanted to get into tech. And then I realized, like, all right, well, maybe I should, because tech felt different. It just felt like it was business, but it felt like it was something else. And so I said, all right, let me go work at a tech company. And so I decided to go work at a tech company instead of just going to start one. And I ended up working at a company called Meraki that had 50 employees at the time. But all of the founders sat on the sales floor. So I was like, all right, I get the chance to get to know them and figure out like what's actually happening behind the scenes. I would ask a ton of questions. And that was really like the beginning of my knowledge. And I was there for 4 years. So by the time I left, they started at 50. By the time I left, they had 3,000 employees.
Oh my gosh.
So it was it that shifted. They had
How long were you there?
I was there for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
50 to 3,000.
Yeah, I know, crazy. They end up selling to Cisco for like $1.5 billion and stuff like that. The CEO of that company ended up being on our board of advisors. The founder of that company I talk to all of the time. He started another company called Samsara. That company is growing faster than Meraki ever did, which is crazy to see. He took it from zero to like, I think it's like $3-5 billion valuation in like 3.5-4 years. So it's crazy.
Wow.
But these connections really helped launch what Zyrl was. And it was the knowledge that I got in that 4 years that helped me kind of set the path in the right way. And so Zyrl basically is, and we started in a bunch of, we did something a little bit differently. We kind of pivoted to this, but what we basically do is we give self-service kiosks to small businesses, restaurants in particular, quick service restaurants. And then what we do on the back end is every time a customer uses the kiosk, we turn that use into a user profile. And from that user profile, we have the ability to retarget automatically, layer artificial intelligence, machine learning on top of that process to optimize the marketing over time. So think about it like Amazon.com, right? So you go to Amazon, you buy something, and they say, oh, because you bought this, you might like this.
Right.
Or, so all of these, but a little bit more intent based marketing to drive customers back into the stores. Gotcha. And all of that stuff happening autonomously for the business owner, because most restaurant owners, they don't know marketing, they don't understand. They just want to open a business and hope the doors come in.
And most of them are artists too. Because they really love the work that they do. They love to cook, and they love to provide that type of value to customers. Absolutely. They're not thinking about
not at all. So what we try to do is try to take the customers that they currently have. If you had an e-commerce store, you had thousands of people coming in the door, you would want to capture those people to potentially sell to them later.
Right.
Well, in the restaurant, you got thousands of people walking in the door every day.
Yeah.
They have no clue how to capture those people. So the kiosk captures them and then has the ability to retarget without them having to think about it. That's pretty much what we do.
Oh, that's amazing. How did you guys come up with that structure for your business?
So the reality was the initial business was everything that I talked about in the back half without the kiosk. And what we were doing was we were selling. And when I was selling, so we launched in 2018 when we started selling the product. The first 6 months I was selling, I was closing at like a 35% clip. We ended up raising around the fund, and we started hiring some sales reps. They couldn't match my selling pace. They would usually they were selling about 8 to 10% a clip.
Wait, when you say that, what does that mean?
That basically means every time they did a presentation, 10% of the people signed up. Every time I did a presentation, 35% of the people signed up. Okay. So when we did our math, we did the math from a unit economics perspective, said, all right, if we do this many presentations, we'll get this many signups. And so we hired based off of that unit economics. And when you selling, a full 10-15% lower than what we expect, then the unit economics doesn't work.
It doesn't work out.
And so we said we had to do one or two things. Either we had to fire these sales guys and go get some better sales guys, or we need to change the product and make it easy to sell, because the product of artificial intelligence, machine learning, capturing users, turning those people into future customers, it was just so far ahead of what that business owner really understood. So it was really hard for them to kind of conceptualize.
You got to put it in language that they can understand and make them actually want it. And because you're the CEO of that,
it's a little easier for me.
You have the passion, you have the understanding, and so you can make that something they understand. But a salesperson coming in is like,
it's not that a salesperson couldn't have done it, but I think that even if we got a higher quality sales rep, the level of intelligence, social intelligence that you have to get over the objections, and it's still a difficult product. Even for me, it took me like 45 minutes per presentation to sell them on this whole process. And I just don't think that they didn't have the ability to communicate the verbiage in the same way to get them over their hesitations. And plus, these business owners also have been hit up by Groupon, Yelp, and a lot of these guys. So it was hard for them to. They just kept saying, "Well, I don't really understand it." So to me, it's marketing. Marketing. I've been getting called by marketing companies forever, and so we had to figure out a different way to go about it. And so one of our customers. So this was like November 2018. So one of our customers basically was like, "Oh, you should do this self-service kiosk thing. We've been trying to get somebody to do it. Nobody does it." And we were thinking like, I'm not really sure we're going to go into that. But we knew we had to make a shift the product. So in November, we decided, okay, let's test it out. So I would pitch the old product. And if they said no, I would be like, all right, wait, you got 5 more minutes. And then I would pitch them this new product. We didn't even have it. I was just pitching it like we did. I just wanted to see what they would say. And so everybody was like, yeah, sign me up. Wow. And so I was like, all right, cool. We'll put you on the waiting list.
Now I got to go make this
thing. So in November, we were selling so many people on the other product. We was like, all right, let's go make it.
Wow.
But we had to make a hard choice. And in business, sometimes it's a difficult situation. We had 17 employees at the time. Okay. And so if we did this, that meant that these people, we had nothing for them to do for like 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
So as a startup, you can't be paying people to do nothing for 4 months. So we went down from 17 to 4. And that was probably one of the hardest things in business, because it was around holidays. It was just like a really rough situation for me, as an entrepreneur. You never want to go through that process. But in November, we made the shift. And so November, December, January, we built the product. And at that time, that first year, even though it wasn't where we wanted it to be, we got to about $500,000 in annual revenue. But the issue was for us, I didn't believe that was gonna scale to be larger, and so I decided like, all right, we're gonna make this shift. And it took us about 55 customers that year to get to that place. Well, in 2019, in February, we launched a new product, and I started selling that new product. So keep in mind, it took us 55 customers all of 2018. In February, I started selling a new product, just the kiosk by itself with the back end stuff. And I sold 110 businesses in the month of February.
Sheesh.
110.
Doubled it in 1 month.
Yeah, in a short month.
In a short month.
Wow.
It was crazy. So, and we ended up raising another round of funding the next month in March.
Wow.
And so literally what we did, I honestly feel like I'm going to write a book on what we did. In 4 months, what we did was we changed the product, pivoted the company, let a bunch of people go, raised a round of funding, oversold the product itself, and then rehire all in a 4 or 5 month period of time. It takes companies sometimes 2 or 3 years to do what we did in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Wow. And then from February to October, we did over $1 million in transactional volume and that time period. So it took us about 9 months. And from October to December, we did the second million. And so it was, that whole process was a lot of learning and a lot of craziness. And even till today, like a lot of people are like, man, everything is going well. It's still crazy. Like it's hard. One, we were growing at like 50-60% month over month. Wow. Like if you don't have a lot of money in the bank from a business perspective, which we don't as a startup, it's hard to grow that fast. You actually could kill yourself by growing that fast. So we literally have to like slow down our growth while we work on closing the next round of funding and stuff like that. So it's still not, and it's a lot of sacrifice from a business owner's perspective. Like, I left Meraki making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, plus my side businesses and side investments and all of that stuff. And
you were
plus,
comfortable. You could have lived on that and been good.
I'd have been my thought process of like, the Darnell self and what he was on. I'm like, I'm here now,
right?
And it was good, but you go into a startup, like I'm not making anywhere close to that right now, based from in this specific situation. So a lot of people think you make this adjustment, you make this switch, you become a CEO, and now everything is like
you living a good life.
Exactly. I think people don't understand. The CEO is nice for when you do things like this and you get applause for like 15 minutes, and then you get the rest of your life is just hectic, right?
As I heard somebody was like, I want to be my own boss. I'm tired of people telling me where I got to be at what time. It's like, then you realize that you can't not go to work.
There is no not go to work. And see, the thing is, what I like about being an employee is you got one boss. When you become the CEO, however many employees, that's how many bosses you got. They all your boss.
They all need you to show up and do something for them.
Well,
for sure.
I mean, that makes you're bringing up a lot of, I think, misconceptions about what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, that with like what you said, everybody's like, I hate having someone over me. Like, I want to be able to do my own thing, set my own schedule. Yeah. But it sounds like, okay, maybe you do set your schedule, but you work in that whole schedule. There's no breaks. So what are like the misconceptions, maybe misunderstandings that people are having about what it means to be an entrepreneur?
In there's a scenario, and it depends on what type of business you get, but there are 3 phases of business. There's the 0 to 10, there's the 10 to 100, and then there's 100 to 1,000, right? And so, and depending on which phase you are, it depends on the level of work that you need to put in and the type of work you put in. And so when you're in the 0 to 10 phase, you are the editor, the chief, the cleaner, the communicator, the salesperson, the marketer, like you are everything to that business. And I think that when people want, what they see is the hundreds to thousands to thousands, right? They see that part of the CEO where that's kissing babies, shaking hands, flying across the country, meeting customers, and it's a little bit more cush. And it's not, I mean, it's still heavy work, it's still heavy commitment, there's still things that you have to do, but the view of it from an outside looking in seems kind of magical.
It's what you post on Instagram.
Exactly.
That's what goes on Instagram.
Exactly.
You don't show the other stuff. You show that I've reached the thousands of thousands. Now you seeing me traveling around the world.
Exactly. So when but to get to that place, you got to go from the 0 to 10s to 10s to 100s, and the 0 to 10s is really stressful. It's really like, it's a grind. And honestly, to me, if I was being honest, I'm not really that good of a 0 to 10 type of employee and or type of CEO. So I am at my actual worst now than I probably will be in the next phase. Because to me, I'm more of a coach, leader, drive people to have success, things of that nature, where I'm working on the business, not in the business. Like that's where I excel. I'm working in the business now, if you have under 100 employees, you still working in the business, right? That's the likelihood. Once you get over that, then you start working on the business, start doing more high level things. And I think that's probably where I excel a little bit better than I excel here. But I think people understanding that the 0 to 10s, like those, that takes a lot of grind, a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of late nights. When we first started the business, I was still working for the first year of me being in the business in 2017. So I literally had to have a conversation with my wife, like, hey, babe, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I promise you. I'm going to give me a year. For a year, I'm not going to be that visible. And
Babe, you done with that?
No. What was that conversation like?
now the question is, what does that visible look like, right?
Yeah.
So I would work from basically 7, 8 to like 3, 4, and then I got a co-working space that was like a block away from my Cisco office. And I would go from the co-working space to from the office to the co-working space, and I would be there from like 4 till 9, 10, 11 sometimes. And I would do that like Monday through Friday. And then the weekends, for the most part, I would work a little bit on Saturdays, and then I would take Sundays off. And so it would be like Saturday night, Sundays, and then sometimes I get home early during the week, where I'll be home at like 9 or 10 or 8 sometimes, but that was like we came to an agreement. Now the scenario was I had a very clear vision. Like, so many people do that, and they say that this is what they're gonna do, and this is what they hope to do, and then like you watch them and you're like, all right, you ain't doing anything close to that, which is why people don't really believe. So it was hard. Like it was times where she was like, I don't really care what vision you got. You need to be here, right? And it was, and we played that back and forth, and it wasn't easy. Like, but she understood. Like, the one thing you gotta have is somebody who's super supportive and believes in the vision and sees what it is that you're trying to do. And here's what I told her: if you give me the time from 5 to 9, I promise you the 9 to 5 will disappear. And give me a year to do that. And if the 9 to 5 disappears, that I'll still be working hard, but when I get home, then I'll be able to be home, and I'll be home in the nights just like any 9 to 5 normal job would be. Right. And it took me a year, and after that year, I ended up going full time in Zyrl, where now I'm 9 to 5, 6, 7 sometimes at the latest, right. And then I'm home for every evening and hanging out, and I'm home on Saturdays for the most part. I'm home on Sundays. I don't do any work on Sundays. So
wow, yeah.
You are getting ready to launch this business full time, and then you see like, okay, I need to make a shift. I need to put more time and commitment into this. And wife, I'm going to just need a whole year where I'm pretty much going to be home on the weekends. And how did that actually like play out day to day? Like
it sounds like it was gonna be smooth. It wasn't. Like, I had to continue to like retell that vision story.
You had to remind
over and over. But like every time, even in the tough times, we would always go back to like, we're doing this for the betterment of the family. And the reality was like, I couldn't, even though I was making a ton of money, I could not breathe in my job.
Wow.
I just like that. It wasn't me. Like, this was my first time in corporate America. So I was just like, all right, at first I thought it was going to be cool. And by year 2, I was just like, all right, I'm not really feeling this, because like the whole people of color. Like, I've always been being from New York, you got so many different races and backgrounds.
You got a variety. Yeah.
So I never really felt the whole being black held me back type of thing. I never felt that ever. Like, you never would have caught me saying, oh, it's because I'm black. But when I got into corporate America out here, that was the first time that I started to see that people's decision making was based off culture, quote unquote. And that culture aligned to a certain demographic of people.
Right.
And so when I started seeing that, my thought process was, and when people started coming to me and saying, yo, Eugene, like, why are you not this? You should be a manager. You should be a director. You should be taking over these specific things. And it's clear you're leading, or you're doing, like, I had managers that I was managing.
Wow.
And so it was that, and that was clear from everybody who was around me. But upper management, there was this. I because I had a family, I was working a business, I never was the type of person, let's go out for happy hour, let's go hang out, let's go have a drink. A lot of these kids smoke weed and all this, like that wasn't me. So I never really fit into that crowd and I wasn't from Stanford, I didn't go to Harvard or any of these other things. So there was a stigma that meant that I didn't fit into that crowd, and they promoted people who were their friends.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, oh, that's my guy. I'm not gonna pick my guy over you over my guy.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I understood that was really kind of the direction I did not want to go in, from a corporate America perspective, and I kind of lost where I was going. I was going somewhere with that.
You know, I mean, you were talking about just like your wife and how you communicated.
Oh yes, I was like, I couldn't breathe in that specific role, so I knew I had to jump out, and so I was kind of just kept telling my wife like, look, I cannot stay here. Like I want to go crazy if I stay here, and so it was just the constant communication. And I give her a lot of credit because it takes a lot. She had to put up with a lot as far as like, all right, I gotta be there for the kid. I gotta, you know, make sure dinner's ready. You know, make sure he's good for, you know, preschool, school, whatever the case may be. And so it was tough, and she wasn't with it sometimes. Sometimes she was like, I don't care what you say, you're gonna be here tomorrow at this time.
That's right.
And it is what it is. And sometimes you gotta understand, like, you can't be like, no, you said a year. Like, sometimes you gotta understand, all right, right now I just need to make this adjustment, and we'll make this adjustment for today. And the things I thought I was gonna have to do, I just not gonna be able to do. And then I make the adjustment, and then we go back and start having a conversation. Hey, remember, this is what we want to do. This is why we're doing it. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And every time you get, the closer you get, and when you start seeing traction start to happen, it becomes easier for you to kind of start to believe, okay, it would come in close to the end. And
it almost makes more sense in a relationship to be flexible so that you can like be like, all right, like I'm not gonna be strict and say like, no, this is what we said, but like in relationships we have to be flexible and be able to say like, all right, I
just gotta understand where people were at mentally, right? Like, so mentally, it was times that it was, I won't say it was like a perfect year where every day I was away, but I would say like 85% of the time I was doing what we talked about, and then there was like that 15% of the time where I had to make adjustments because the family needed me at that moment in time. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so man, you've been saying a lot. I think going back to this whole business thing, you were just in the beginning of Zyrl, you were first able to examine that, like, all right, what we're doing right now in business isn't working. You saw that there's possibility for a need that you can meet, and so you tested it out. You saw like, oh, okay, actually this is doing really well. All right, and then you pretty much like set forth to just make it happen, and you were able to kind of make that shift. But I also hear that you're in this space where your business is right now, you're not necessarily the best at. Like, this isn't your best leadership potential. And like some of the things that we talk about as flow is like, how do we get into our strength and make sure that we're achieving in our strength? And so even though like there may be times in our life, excuse me, where we gotta like step into a role that we may not be strong at so that we can get to where we are strong. Correct. Or there's some things we gotta kind of step into that this isn't like my bread and butter, but I'm still gonna do it. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you approach a situation where you know you may not be in your flow, but this is what you got to do for the business to kind of
It's about vision, man.
Hey everybody, we hope that you have been enjoying this episode with Eugene so far. This is actually the first part of a 2-part episode. And so through this episode, we've been talking to Eugene about his journey from going to stealing bikes off people's front porch and stealing Pokemon cards and getting to the place of being the CEO of a tech startup in San Francisco. That Eugene has been sharing a lot about his life, a lot of his experiences, a lot of wisdom that he's learned along the way. And so we are enjoying this time with Eugene, and as he's leading us through, we are actually transitioning into him revealing more of what does it take to be an entrepreneur? What does it take to actually be the CEO of your company? How do you start off a business when you don't have the funding or the resources? And so he's going to get more into how do people of color redefine success as an entrepreneur in business. And we hope that you guys will stay tuned, that you will tune back in next week so you can hear more of Eugene and more of the wisdom that he wants to shed, just to shed light on and to give us. And so we want to thank you for listening in. Thank you for tuning in. And we want to remind you that you have have the power to create your extraordinary life. Okay, y'all. Bye.